Welcome to MF Garza Law Firm, helping injured victims, one Texan at a time.
Hello and welcome back to MF Garza Law Firm, helping injured victims, one Texan at a time with Miguel Garza. Miguel is the founder of the MF Garza Law Firm, where he fights for Texans injured in accidents ranging from car and trucking crashes to catastrophic injuries. I'm Kevin Rosenquist, and in this episode, we're once again joined by immigration attorney Eliana Marudi, founder of Marudi Law Group, and just happens to be Miguel's wife. Eliana's personal story of growing up in an immigrant family inspired her to dedicate her career to protecting immigrant rights, and she brings that perspective to her practice every day. Today, Miguel and Eliana will explain how a personal injury lawsuit and an immigration case can overlap, what risks and protections families should understand, and how the right guidance can keep both cases on track. Miguel, Eliana, welcome back.
Thank you.
Great to see you. Great to be here.
Eliana, many immigrants, they're going to worry that filing a lawsuit after an accident could hurt their immigration status. Why is this fear so common?
Well, lack of information, fear of authorities, fear of being blamed. Those are common reasons, but they shouldn't have any fear. They should proceed with their rights to file a claim if they were the victim of a car accident, because they have every right to do so, as any other American does.
In the climate, obviously, today, I could see why they wouldn't want to risk any sort of police involvement or anything like that. What should they do to ensure that their rights are upheld when they have to, pursue any sort of a claim?
So in terms of the actual accident on the scene, they should comply with providing their information, providing their driver's license or insurance if they have that piece of information, but they shouldn't disclose any information regarding where they were born or what their legal status is, simply because we don't know if authorities in that city or that state would want to use it against them. And that is based on the arrangements that each state has with federal authorities. But outside of that, once they are in the I guess it would be the pretrial stages of filing a lawsuit, they should contact not only an immigration attorney but a personal injury attorney to learn about what their rights are for that personal injury case, and they should pursue all avenues, because their immigration status is not relevant to the cause of the accident. So they should continue with pursuing those rights.
Miguel, if a client tells you they're in the middle of an immigration case when they come to you for a personal injury claim, do you approach it in a different way?
Generally not, but it also depends, because obviously I do want to know what the status of their case is. Potentially, if they have to go to trial or if they have some sort of hearing that might change their status, whether or not they're allowed to stay here or if they got to go back to their country of origin, that's going to be very important, because if I don't have their authority to settle the case, when it comes time to settlement negotiations and I can't get a hold of them, then that's typically problematic for resolving it, because the client has to sign a release. They have to sign some, settlement documents and things like that. And, you get some attorneys that have their clients sign what's called a power of attorney, so they can sign on their behalf with these things. But generally, things like a release, that's a release of all claims, whether known or unknown, that the client has to sign before the settlement check is dispersed and sent to my law firm for payment to providers and to the client, and any type of legal expenses are out there. So it depends. I do have one case, or I had one case years ago where I was negotiating a settlement, and I believe the gentleman might have been undocumented. And when it came time to settle the case, I couldn't find him. His phone was disconnected. I hired a private investigator to find him. He wasn't at his residence anymore, and somebody else was living there. So I have a feeling that he might have been detained or deported during that time. And that was about 8 or 9 years ago, and I still haven't been paid for that case. So it's good to know what's going on with the immigration case, just so I know how to approach it correctly, whether or not it's got to be quickly or if we have some time to litigate it and pursue other matters. But yeah, it generally depends.
Eliana, can a personal injury settlement affect immigration applications like green cards, visa renewals, or citizenship?
Not a settlement, in short, no. It doesn't have any bearing on their legal status or their requirements for obtaining legal status. And these are all different types of statuses, like citizenship is different from residency. If anything, they just have to make sure that they pay taxes on whatever it is that they earned from compensation from a settlement. But whether that affects whether they qualify for an immigration benefit, no, it doesn't have an impact.
Miguel, have you had other cases aside from the one you just told us about where a client's immigration status made pursuing an injury claim more complicated?
Generally not, because like I said, what I always tell clients is I only want you to worry about one thing, and that's getting the medical treatment you need and getting back to 100% recovery where you were before the accident. And then I typically and my staff take care of the rest, whether it's filing the lawsuit, taking depositions, hiring experts, preparing the case for hearings or going to trial. That's usually everything that I handle. And I want the client to just focus on getting better. Now, if they have some sort of hearing or something like that where they might need to go back to their country of origin, I certainly do want to know about that, because if they're not here when a hearing or a trial is going to happen, then obviously I need to prepare for that, maybe change the date, maybe file what's called a motion for continuance to change the trial setting, things like that. So it can complicate things, but as long as they're just getting the medical treatment that they need and they're following a doctor's orders, usually that's what I need to help get a successful settlement for the client.
Eliana, are there situations where a personal injury case can actually support or highlight an immigration matter, like showing hardship or medical needs?
Yes, actually, there are. There are cases in the non-removal context, meaning you're affirmatively applying for a benefit. Some that come to mind are like a waiver case where we need to show hardship. In this case, it would be to the family member who's a U.S. citizen. But if the person themselves is undocumented and they were injured, we can also attribute that hardship to their spouse or their parent or the relative. But we can use that in cases to show that there are hardship elements. And we can also use them in the removal context to show similarly that either the spouse or family member or the immigrant themselves has exceptional or unusual hardship, depending on the details of the case. For medical needs as well, we can show that we can use those records. So in fact, it would be very helpful if we are able to show any of that evidence in their immigration case.
For families balancing both an immigration case and a personal injury case, what should they do to keep one process from interfering with the other? Do you guys have any advice on the best way to manage these two things together?
I'd say the most important thing is just to always keep your attorney or attorneys informed of what's happening. Are you going to need surgery? Are you going to have some type of immigration proceeding where you need to appear in person? That could certainly affect one case or the other. And so that's one thing that I always try to tell clients, regardless of their legal status, is that always keep your attorneys informed on what's going on. Obviously, I'm not going to know everything happening unless you tell me. We usually call clients at least once a month to kind of get an update on how they're doing, medical-wise, or if in this case, if there's an immigration proceeding, ask about how that's going. But usually just try to keep your attorney informed and let the attorney make the best decision possible for the client.
Eliana?
One other benefit actually with having a personal injury case is that oftentimes that settlement actually helps them pay their legal fees for their immigration case, because for immigration cases, the client themselves they're responsible for their legal fees and their government fees. So oftentimes it's a big help.
Yeah, I would imagine a little windfall like that if it goes down that way. Miguel, when necessary, do you coordinate with an immigration attorney like Eliana during this process to make sure rights are protected on both fronts?
Yes, quite a bit. I certainly ask Eliana, about what can happen in this situation. Like, do they have a particular visa that, could be revoked for, something the person may have done? Like perhaps if, just say they get arrested for like a DWI or something during the case, that could potentially revoke a visa from my understanding. So these are things that, I have the luxury of asking my wife at, dinner or, over the phone whenever I need to, instead of having to call another colleague, but one great thing about, having Eliana by my side is that not only can she answer questions, but she also refers me to other immigration attorneys that may specialize in a different area, like T visas or, H-1 visas, whatever the case may be.
I do T's. I can refer you to some.
I know you do, but just, there's a lot of different ones. The immigration.
There are a lot of different ones.
There's a rainbow of visas and immigration visas.
So, and certain implications can affect their legal status. So it's very important to be able to find out what could happen if something negative may impact them. Like I said, some type of criminal arrest or other legal proceedings. So yeah, it's definitely always good to coordinate with an immigration attorney when you can.
Yeah, I've spoken to immigration attorneys before, and it's a lot. It's a lot of information. There's a lot of different visas and procedures and this and that. I mean, it's I don't know how you do it, Eliana. I don't know how you keep it all straight.
It's the one thing that they I hear all the time is you'll hear all kinds of different acronyms and for these type of visas or what the status of these people are. And sometimes, Eliana, it's like speaking a different language to me. It's like, I don't know what you're saying, but
you're like,
okay.
Just so you know, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so you need to explain it down for me too. And that's because, I'm a lawyer as well. So, it's challenging for anybody. So that's why you always need to consult with a lawyer, because even a lawyer like myself may not know everything about immigration and how to answer or handle a situation.
Eliana, last episode, we talked about reasons that immigrants might feel afraid to move forward with a personal injury claim, given their status or the current political climate. If someone's already in process of having an immigration case, in the middle of an immigration case, they might even be more hesitant to bring a personal injury case, even if it's warranted. What do you say to those people?
I encourage them to absolutely move forward because, again, with personal injury, their model is different from immigration. So it's contingent, and it takes a while as well. Immigration cases can take a very long time. So I don't see a downside to actually going forward and going through with your personal injury case. In some cases, it actually helps our immigration case. Like we mentioned, if we have to prove some sort of hardship or injury or why they need to remain here for treatment or for their family members. I've had actually a good intersection of immigration and personal injury. An illustration is precisely the T visas that you mentioned, because there's an intersection with work-related accidents, particularly if the person was subjected to abuse or coercion or forced labor. They might actually qualify for a specific case in immigration that is called a T. It stands for a trafficking visa. And so I have had clients that were referred because they suffered a workplace injury, and there were elements that we were able to prove that they were actually coerced or forced to work under certain conditions, and therefore I was able to help them on their immigration case as well.
Wow.
And if I could just add a piece to that, and I would just say absolutely pursue the claim, because the longer you delay, the more difficult it makes it for me to get you a favorable settlement. Delay is the number one defense tactic for all insurance companies, carriers, and defense attorneys in the insurance industry. They try to drag things out, and it makes things very, very difficult when it comes to try to resolve the claim. So the longer you delay, the more difficult you're going to make it for yourself and potentially your family. So I would encourage anybody that is injured in any type of incident to immediately consult with an attorney so they can tell you the best way to handle what challenges you may be facing.
As we finish up our second episode with our special guest here, when you guys decided to do this sort of, this double episode or the episode with both you guys to handle these topics, what are the main takeaways you would like listeners to get from this? Miguel, I'll start with you.
Definitely, like I said, consult with an attorney as soon as possible. The attorneys are going to be there to help you. They're not going to potentially hurt your legal status or, call ICE on you, for example, how other legal authorities may do. We have a duty to zealously represent our clients regardless of their legal status. And anything that we discuss is always protected by the attorney-client privilege. And we're not going to reveal that information unless you want us to or you give us permission to. So anything that we discuss, like I said, is going to be confidential and will help you navigate the pathway as best as possible for not only you and your family, help you get, like I said, compensation that you're entitled to, help you give you peace of mind. And then again, if you need help with your legal status, get that taken care of as well, because as we were discussing earlier, if you're injured on the job or you're under duress at the job or coercion or something like that, it could absolutely help your immigration case. So consulting with one attorney can absolutely help you in your case with another attorney.
Eliana?
Absolutely. People who don't have status or who have temporary status, as I mentioned, there's a rainbow visas, should absolutely pursue any claims that they have. They have a right to pursue them under the Constitution. They have equal rights to pursue a personal injury case, and in fact, it could help them later with their ongoing or an immigration case, whether it's in removal or non-removal based cases. But they have the same rights and shouldn't be deterred from seeking assistance because of their status, and so they should contact Miguel for any help that they might need, and I'm happy to help with any immigration related questions. Speak Spanish, obviously culturally align with a lot of these clients, so happy to help in any way that we can.
Awesome. Well, thank you both very much for giving all this information. I'm sure it's information that that a lot of people out there can really use. And thank you all for listening to this special episode of MF Garza Law Firm, helping injured victims one Texan at a time, with Miguel Garza and his wife, immigration attorney Eliana Marudi. When personal injury and immigration cases overlap, the process can feel even more overwhelming, but the right guidance can protect your rights on both sides. To learn more, visit mfgarzalaw.com to connect with Miguel, or medudalaw.com to connect with Eliana. And don't forget to leave a review, and subscribe to our show. And please share it with anybody that you think could benefit from this information. Eliana, Miguel, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.